Hello and welcome to another comparison video. Today we have a really fun comparison. We are taking a look at MiniMax M3 versus Kimi K2.7. Now I'm a little late to this comparison than I would like to be because MiniMax is about 15 days old at the time of making this recording, and Kimi K2.7 is about 4 days old already. Now, we're late, but it's better late than never. I'm pretty confident that this video is packed with a lot of value, and without wasting much of your time, let's just get right into it. So our comparison tests usually just take these models and take them beyond what the benchmarks say they're supposed to do, right? And we have MiniMax M3 here, and MiniMax's benchmarks are pretty impressive, I guess. It comes pretty close to Oppo's GPT 5.5 and so on and so forth. And on the paper, it doesn't seem that impressive. I mean, except in things like SVG bench and what else? I guess terminal bench 2, and that's just like against Opus 4.7. 5.5 blows it out of the water, and we already do have 4.8 now, so it's a little bit old, right? But like I always say, the benchmarks aren't the full story. And K2.7 has, again, a rather impressive benchmark. It is a lot better than 2.6 as it should be, and it's trying to go head to head with 4.8, Opus 4.8, GPT 5.5, and we're going to make a comparison video putting Kimi against these state-of-the-art models. But today it is going head to head against MiniMax M3. Right off the bat, I want to say that I am significantly underwhelmed by Kimi K2.7's performance, and as I show you the results of these tests, you would understand why I made that statement. These are the prompts I made are pretty straightforward, pretty basic. I'll be sure to leave them in the description or like in the blog, and you can take a look at them in your free time. So we built a couple of things. We built the 2047 game. We built 3 really dynamic web pages and Tetris. So 2 games and 3 front-end heavy graphics intense web pages. And remember, all of these were one-shotted. So it was a single prompt, and we let the agent do its thing, get the job done. So right off the bat, let's get into the results of this test. Now, this is 2048. I'm pretty sure a lot of you should be pretty familiar with this game. We got our agents to build this out, and this is MiniMax's version. MiniMax's version works flawlessly. When I say flawlessly, I mean flawlessly. Okay, well, maybe not flawlessly, because we're just in 2s, and sometimes it changes to 4, but not always, I guess, which is strange. But this is MiniMax's version. The sliding and everything, the UI looks great. The function is pretty great. We can see it also adds up here, but the numbers don't quite change. And this could be fixed with another simple prompt, but again, we are working with one shot, and this is what we get. Now straight up we go into Kimi's version, and Kimi's version is definitely a lot more functional. It's less fluid in terms of graphic UI, but the math checks out, the game works really well, and it's just like very reliable. You can ship this and it's going to function as it needs to function. Now, again, remember, this is just one shot. We could get this to be significantly better, but this works pretty well. I am satisfied with the results from Kimi K2.7 here. So right off the bat, Kimi K2.7 leads 1-0, and we're going to move on to the more graphic intensive UIs. Okay, matter of fact, before we even get into those, I think we should just sort out the gaming experience. So we're going to move on to Tetris on MiniMax, and as you can see, this is the Tetris gameplay, and everything seems to work pretty well. You can do all that, and Tetris works great on MiniMax's version. I have 0 complaints. Now we're going to take a look at Tetris on Kimi K2.7. Kimi K2.7, obviously, we can see it has a couple bugs with the UI. It's not as nice looking as MiniMax's version. And that is what I think is the more consistent theme from my testing. It is that MiniMax does an insanely better job at front-end UI than Kimi K2.7. And I think Kimi does a better job with logic validation than it does with front-end UI. So if there's anything you're going to take from this video, is the fact that if you're going to build sophisticated user interfaces, I think you can rely on MiniMax M3. And if you're going to run some logic backend infrastructure, Kimi K2.7 is your best bet. And this is what leads us to the argument of picking a particular model that excels at a particular task. And in my opinion, with open source models and the cost savings that comes with them, they can particularly be great at everything. And realizing that, and from my testings, MiniMax M3 does a phenomenal job at front-end UI. Its representation, it's great, it's functional, and Kimi K2.7 is just pretty good at backend logic. And so let's just like continue the video. So this is a front-end user interface we built with MiniMax M2.7. Again, it was one shot and everything looks great. Everything looks great. It works pretty well. It's smooth. It's beautiful. It's just nice to look at. You could easily mistake this for something that like maybe Opus or GPT 5.5 built. So like this is just a single one shot and it is really, really impressive. All the pages work great, and I particularly like the privacy policy page because it has this, and it's just all the pages work great, and I particularly like the privacy policy page because the animations and the functions just work really, really, really well, and it's just smooth. It's a beauty to behold, honestly. I think this is probably the most impressive results I've gotten from like open source comparison, front end, user interface heavy open source comparison, and it's just reliable. Look at this. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool. So this works really well. This is MiniMax M3's version. Let's take a look at Kimi K2.7's version. Now, this is a product of the exact same prompt on Kimi K2.7. As you can see, we do have a few things that aren't particularly consistent. One is, just the overall look of the web UI and the fact that a few things are missing. I think, the model just sort of went on a tangent at some point and it just never really got back. And this is what we have. The pages do work though, but they aren't complete. And I'm pretty sure this is an easy fix. But then again, we need to remember that one shot, we're trying to see how well these agents are able to iterate on whatever task they've been given and get a practical, usable result from that one single prompt. So this isn't great from Kimi K2.7. So this puts us at 2-1, and this is MiniMax leading. Kimi K2.7 lost the gaming Tetris round, and it also lost the first test into our user interface. So moving on to the second front-end heavy design, we have this beautiful, interesting, sophisticated front-end UI that M3 does a pretty interesting job to build out. Everything seems to work fine, but I think when we scroll down, things just get really interesting. Things get particularly interesting when we scroll down, and it freezes a little bit. So, it's not particularly usable or reliable, but it looks nice. It looks really nice. And that is something we can work with. Because when we come to Kimi K2.7's version, we have nothing, like literally nothing. There is nothing on the homepage, nothing on any of the pages at all. And I promise you, I was sure that the model told me it was done with the task. So a few things might be happening here. It could be that Kimi K2.7 doesn't work well with open code, right? Because the harness is also as important as the model, right? So K2.7 may not be particularly great with open code. And maybe if you're using Kimi's models, you should just use them with Kimi's CLI agent. And this may be something to look into because I ran a test with Mistral's model and I put it up against, and I used Mistral's model with open code and Mistral's Vibe. So basically two different harness with the exact same model. One of them is proprietary, one of them is from the vendor, and another one is third party. Mistral's model performed significantly better while it was with Mistral Vibe and not as good with open code. While this test, for the sake of consistency, was run in the exact same harness, the exact same environment, I do think that the performance may be different if we run them at home. It's like home and away match, right? It's like we're using Moonshot's Kimi's model inside of its own harness, where it's like it feels comfortable, it's been trained on that, it knows how to work its way around that harness, as opposed to open code, which is like a third-party harness, and it seems like it doesn't know what to do. Again, I might be wrong, but this isn't good, and I think K2.7 is a much more impressive model than the results we're getting from these tests. But that being said, moving on, this is 3-1. MiniMax M3 is leading as it stands. And this is our final front-end UI test. This is the final test of the entire video. This is called VoltGrid. It is a quantum accelerator training fabric. Again, front-end is great, smooth, it works well, it looks good, it's just functional. I think this is, I want to say it's pretty tough to tell that this was vibe coded, but I guess it's also pretty easy to tell. But it's pretty good. I think it did a pretty good job overall, considering that it was one-shotted. Not bad. One of the things I can flag is this green line is supposed to go all the way every time I scroll down, but that isn't happening. So, we just have to deal with that. But this is nonetheless a really impressive representation from MiniMax M3. Now we're going to take a look at Kimi K2.7's version, and I don't know, man. It just keeps falling apart, Yeah, the exact same prompt. I'm not sure what this is. The exact same prompt, and I'm not sure what this is. I think I get what it's trying to do, but, execution wasn't great. The pages do work well, though. This is probably its best performing test yet. This, amongst all the other tests, except the 2047 gameplay, this is probably, I'm sorry, I got distracted. So except the 2047 gameplay, the UI for this is good, but it pales in comparison, easily pales in comparison to what we got from MiniMax M2.7. MiniMax barely broke a sweat in any of the tests, except for this one, which still works great. The numbers just don't, add up. And I think the strength why Kimi was able to get that properly was because its logic within OpenCode, I suppose, is way more superior than, MiniMax's version. That's it. That's pretty much it. This is the end of the test. The results are really interesting. I feel bad for Kimi K2.7. I think, it just fell apart. And MiniMax is really impressive for front end. I'll run a few more tests in my free time, just have fun with it and give it even more challenging things, and maybe use MiniMax in one of my personal projects and see how well it handles front end design. But overall, really impressed so far. I hope this was helpful. I would say that you can confidently give MiniMax M3 a front end task and it will blow it out of the water. No questions, no reservations. And whatever tweaks you need to make are just going to be very subtle and everything will work really well. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please feel free to give this video a like, share this with friends, share this with folks who aren't particularly sure how well these models perform in real world scenarios. And subscribe if you'd like to see more comparison videos like this. I have a ton of them coming. June has been a really fun month. So a ton of things happening, not to talk about Fable, but June has been a really fun month with like model releases and all of this really cool stuff. So I'm super excited to put up a bit more videos and put these in front of you. So thank you again for watching. I hope this was helpful and see you in the next one. Peace.